All right, people. As the title says, prove Charlie Kirk right. Debate on black crime, fatherhood, and violence. So the white people that think the right people on the conservative right, and even the niggas conservatives, if you feel Charlie Kirk was correct on crime and violence when it comes to the black community and black men and our black culture, you have the opportunity now to debate me on the facts. Even though I've done 3 videos speaking on the topic, breaking down all the facts logically, all the statistics already, if you feel that Charlie Kirk was right about black culture and the black community and the crimes that goes on in the black community, you have an opportunity to debate me now. And prove that Charlie Kirk was right, that black people is evil and wicked. And we need to repent from our wicked, sinful ways. You have an opportunity to prove that. Feel me? I'm going to put the link in the chat. All right, so now that link is there. You can hit the Streamlabs link. You can come up. You could debate the point. Feel me? And debate and prove your white Lord and Savior, Charlie Kirk. Prove what he's saying is correct about black culture. Because I did 3 videos breaking it down. I did a couple shorts breaking it down. And regardless of me showing the facts, now white people say, if you have a debate, you debate them intellectually, you debate them with intelligence, you show the facts, you show all these things. And I did exactly that. Yet white people are still ignorant or want to deny the facts that I presented. So you guys have that opportunity now. If you feel that your Lord and Savior, Charlie Kirk, was correct about black culture and black community, bring your ass up here. Give it a moment. Then I'm going to make my argument, or begin to make my argument at this moment. All right. Post a link in the chat. I'm going to keep hitting this horse till it's dead. So I posted the link, the invite link. We'll post it again into the chat, the comment section. You can pull your punk ass up here. especially if you're white and you're on the conservative left. I mean, right, my bad, white, right, whatever. Now, I'm going to begin something here. One of Charlie Kirk's talking points was that when it comes to black people and black culture, first of all, I'm gonna lead off with this video right quick. Let me lead off with this video. This is white people talking about other white people. Watch this.
They use bullets.
This is the man who shot Charlie Kirk. This is the man who shot Trump. This is the man who killed Melissa Hortman. This is the man who tried to kill John Hoffman. This is the man who tried to kill Paul Pelosi. This is the man who killed an Obama-appointed judge's son. This is the man who hired hitmen to kill Democrats. This is the man who ran over a left-wing activist and killed her. This is the man responsible for the Austin bombing. This is the man who sent pipe bombs to Obama, Biden, and Hillary Clinton. This is the man who shot Gabby Gifford. This is the man who tried to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. Oh, and this man, and this man, and this man, this man, this man, this man, this man, this man, and this man. This is the man who set Josh Shapiro's house on fire. This is the Oklahoma bomber. This is his accomplice. These are just a few of the men who beat police officers on January 6th. I can think of a few things they have in common, and it's not the way they use their words or their left-wing politics.
Man, this is a lot of white people. For those of you in the chat, press a 1 if you believe that these white communities should be heavily policed like they police black people. This is a lot of white people committing crimes. Hold on. Give me one moment. All right, let's play this. Let's play this next video.
Well, most of the time, I don't give y'all time of day. TikTok, this is for educational purposes, okay? Now, Michael, y'all always want to turn this around. It's almost like one of those look over there but not over here thing. White people tend to do that a lot, Michael. Now, let's talk about this. You know, the demonstration. Where's the demonstration for black on black crimes? How about where's the demonstration for white on white crimes, Michael? This is a great article for all white people to go read, Michael. Yes, there is white on white crime. Now let's look at some numbers here. The statistics show 84% of white victims were killed by who, Michael? Whites. And Michael, do you remember the Sandy Hook shooting that was done by a white male? And his victims were mostly all white children. Where's your outrage and demonstrations for these kind of things?
Yeah, Charlie Kirk, conservative. Charlie Kirk. White people on the right. Where was your outrage for this? White people. Why was not Charlie Kirk outraged about this incident? Why was Charlie Kirk not speaking about the crime within white communities? I'm gonna play this clip again. Hold on.
The Columbine. Yes, there is white on white crime. Now let's look at some numbers here. The statistics show 84% of white victims were killed by who, Michael? Whites.
Remember, Charlie Kirk said that white people, what he said, let me go play what he said. Let me go get what he said. Let me get what he said. Let me get what he said. Give me one moment. Charlie Kirk. I'm going to go find out what he said. Charlie Kirk. On black Violence. You know, oh, so why black fatherlessness is so high? We're gonna debunk that too. Charlie Kirk brings on black on black. Let's see. I never knew Charlie Kirk until this. All right, Charlie Kirk. Let's see what he got to say. All right, so let me play this. All right, quick. Share. This actually is a good debate here. It's not a bad debate.
Not Asians or Jews.
So I'll answer that. So Jews, well, let me speak about Asians. As a model minority, right? They've had more opportunities for upper mobility.
How?
Well, in terms of getting business loans, setting up in different neighborhoods.
No, there was a lot more anti-Asian discrimination in California than anti-black discrimination in the 40s and 50s.
So you agree
A lot
100% that African Americans have
What?
the same opportunities?
No, I'm not. Look,
As far as redlining
He said
goes,
there's
groups
more
are sometimes treated
anti-Asian
poorly.
hate.
Whether or not you're able to overcome that is the question. Number
so
two,
treated poorly doesn't cover it. I have a couple things. I have a couple lines right here.
60 years ago, Dr. Linus Pauling, a two-time Nobel laureate and vitamin C pioneer, warned, quote,
Oh,
the
come
world is sick due to a lack of carrot
Come on,
from a
bro.
hundred alone.
I have a couple things. I have a couple lines right here. So we have the Tulsa massacre of 1921, right?
Yeah,
Where African Americans established a black. Well, they established a black Wall Street, right? And that was
College. It has no bearing on whether or not you can make good decisions or not.
well,
right?
college has no impetus on my thinking. This is
No,
organic.
I know, but I reject the whole premise. You are not a creature or a victim of what happened 104 years ago. You're your own being.
All right, so Charlie Kirk said that, right? So no, basically the premise of Charlie Kirk is that nothing happened to black people in the 50s. That would be more comparable to Asians. I guess prejudice against the Asian community. All right, watch this. And I remember doing on my channel something about Bill Clinton and how a lot of the policies he passed did affect black culture. So that's something systemic. But let me go into this right quick. Redlining. Where's that? Pull up this. No, that's not it. That's not it. My fault. So when you talk about systemic, we're talking about policies that were put in place. Where is that shit? Where is it? Be patient with me so I can find what I need to find. Now, the policies passed, right? They definitely did affect Black Americans. Give me 1 second. I gotta find that shit. I have a bunch of stuff in my toolbox, and I'll put them places, and then I forget where. Because what I do is I study history and things that happened. And then to remind myself, I go back, I put them down in notes. And because of modern technology, I could put them in a PDF, something similar to this. So, Charlie Kirk said something about Asian facing more systemic stuff now than in the 1950s. All right. Then blacks in the 1950s. Let's go. Redlining legal bans versus persistent practices. All right. Redlining and discriminatory practices of denying services based on race was officially outlawed with Fair Housing Act of 1968 and Equal Credit Opportunity Act of 1974. Enforcement and evasion. Despite these laws, enforcement has been inconsistent. For instance, Ocean First Bank in New York, Jersey settled a lawsuit in 2024 for redlining practices between 2018 and 2022, including discouraging borrowers in predominantly Black, Hispanic, and Asian neighborhoods, right? Similarly, Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation was fined for redlining in Birmingham, Alabama from 2015 to 2022, despite the existence of anti-discriminatory laws, right? Well, laws exist. The challenge lies in consistent enforcement and adaptation of discriminatory practices to circumvent legal frameworks. So that's a policy, right? Even though they outlawed it, it was still being put in practice, right? DEI and affirmative action initiatives were designed to address historical systemic inequalities by promoting representation and opportunities for marginalized groups, which was Black people at the time, right? Critiques argue that these policies sometimes fail to prioritize the most qualified candidates, potentially leading to tokenism rather than genuine equity. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has issued guidance indicating that certain DEI practices may inadvertently lead to discrimination, emphasizing that race or sex-based preferences, even with good intentions, can be unlawful. Jackson Walker, right? There is concern that Black men are underrepresented in DEI initiatives, with some policies favoring Black women or white women labeled as minorities. So Black men, they didn't benefit from DEI. Black women and white women did, right? Mind you, the whole thing, the whole concept of this thing is of Charlie Kirk's video is fatherless in Black America, right? That's an attack on suggests that Black men are absentee fathers in the home, right? And there's been systemic things that prevented Black men from being patriarchs or having financial upward mobility in the home. Things like redlining, DEI not hiring Black men, DEI hiring white women or benefiting white women, whether it be conservative white women or liberal white women, and Black women over Black men, right? Redlining, while legal prohibition exists, inconsistent enforcement and adaptation of discriminatory practices continue to hinder progress, right? But require careful implementation to ensure they do not inadvertently perpetuate disparities or overlook qualified individuals, which is what was still happening to Black men. You have Black men that did qualify for certain positions. It's just that because there weren't white women, and white women would get those positions before Black men got those positions. Now, you can't prove that, but EEOC has documented certain patterns of that, right? Now, he said the 1950s. Redlining formally ended decades ago, but its consequences persist. Black families were denied mortgage loans, and access to prime neighborhoods, which limited wealth accumulation. Wealth inequality compounded over generations because homeownership is the prime vehicle for intergenerational wealth in the U.S. Even if laws outline redlining, the structural effects reduce capital, limited economic mobility, lower property values, and segregated areas remain. Example, the 2008 housing crisis disproportionately affected Black communities, where predatory lending and undervalued property market caused greater financial losses, worsening generational inequalities. So that's a systemic policy, right? And even though the housing crisis affected the country as a whole, it put Black people in a worse strait because they're already not having housing or houses. They're not able to buy housing in certain prime places to even start a home with. So Black people were already behind the race. And by the way, Bill Clinton passed a law in 1988, or policy in 1988, that caused this housing crash to happen. Policies like NAFTA and financial deregulation further disrupt economic opportunities. NAFTA contributes to the loss of manufacturing jobs, many of which employ Black men in urban areas. Combined with predatory lending and limited access to capital, these policies intensify structural disadvantages. These are systemic issues, not failures of individual morality or effort. So you can't blame Black men, Charlie Kirk, individually for a policy that Bill Clinton passed that took away those opportunities from Black men who were struggling trying to get in the race and win in the race, that further puts them in the back of the race. You understand? This is what we mean by systemic issues. Separating structural versus moral accountability. Moral accountability. Individual actions within communities such as crime or inter-community behavior can and should be addressed. Structural accountability. Policies and systemic practices, redlining, economic shifts, uneven enforcement, restricted opportunities independent of individual choices. Understanding this distinction is critical to avoid blaming Black individuals for outcomes caused by historical and structural inequities, right? Now, you can't really prove DEI misinformation. You might be able to track certain anecdotal patterns, but you can't prove that generally because of how it's hidden within the hiring practices, right? If you're now hiring white women and Black women because Black women are Black and they're a minority, and now you're hiring them not based on merit, but hiring them based on you get a tax credit, but you got Black men who qualify for that position, but they don't get that position. Is that really benefiting Black culture as a whole or Black community as a whole? Because that puts Black women in a financial position, but it takes Black men who is charged with the responsibility of being a patriarch in this community out of the financial seat or breadwinning seat. Remember, the core patriarchy is to be the breadwinner, and the breadwinner is in charge. So now, if Black men are denied access to money and resources and capital, he can't be a patriarch because DEI is something that is giving opportunities to white women and Black women, not because of merit, but because they're women and minorities over Black men, right? Now, when you talk about redlining, you talk about the after effects, right? Structural policies like NAFTA and the 2008 housing crisis compounded disadvantages. Remember, Black people were trying to recover from Jim Crow. Now they got civil rights movement. They still dealing with issues. Then Vietnam War kicked off. Then the 80s and a lot of shit was compounded, right? Black people never really truly recovered as a whole, right? Now, today, you can make the argument that today, over the past 10, 15 years, especially when it comes to Black men, we are now more upwardly mobile, right? But now when you talk about the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s and the mid-2010s, you can make that argument there. Okay, this is something different. So we're going to step back from that. Now, I want to see something. Remove that. I'm going to go into this. Okay, so this is actually the one. This is the one. This is the one that I want to show. And so far yet, I've issued a challenge. I said, white people come debate me. Right? So let's do this.
So how is that?
Well, I'm not here to debate numbers because I don't have the numbers.
It's okay. When you get home, you can look at it. Far more likely to commit crime. Blacks are far more likely to commit crimes than any other group associated. It's like 3 to 4 times more likely. It's not even close.
Remember the numbers.
How is that?
Well, I'm not here to debate numbers because I don't have the numbers.
It's okay. When you get home, you can look at it. Black Americans are 13% of the population. They commit 55% of the violent crime.
A statistic I've heard before.
Right.
And I don't have the numbers.
It's fine. You could independently fact check it later. I don't anticipate you to have it off the top of your head. But why is that?
That's why they say that, because they know you cannot look into that number right there. And by the time you go back home to look up the numbers and find the truth, you can't. It's like you can't find them to debate them or prove them wrong again.
Blacks are far.
I got the answer for you, Charlie Kirk. So there was somebody in my chat or one of my not this. I don't want to show this. Something different. Something different. This is something different. I'm building something different with this. It's not what I want to show. Move that. So he says that. He says. So remember, Charlie Kirk said this. Said that, right? Arrest by race and ethnicity. This is from the Uniform Crime Report, Crime in the United States, 2019. Arrest by race and ethnicity. In 2019, 69.4% of all individuals arrested were white. 26.6% were black or African American, and 4.0% or 4% were of other races. Of arrests for whom ethnicity was reported, 19.1% were Hispanic or Latino. Of all juveniles, persons under the age of 18, arrested in 2019, 62.5% were white, 33.9% were black or African American, 3.6% were of other races. Of juveniles arrested for whom ethnicity was reported, 23.6% were Hispanic or Latino. Of all adults arrested in 2019, 69.9% were white, 26.1% were black or African American, and 4.0% of other races. Of adult arrests for whom ethnicity was reported, 18.8% were Hispanic or Latino. White individuals arrested more often for violent crimes than individuals of any other race and accounted for 59.1% of those arrests. Of adult arrests for murder, 51.13% were black or African American, 45.7% were white, and 3.0% of other races. So now, when you look at the violent crime in general, white people are arrested more than any other individual. But when it comes specific to murder, black people is 51.3%, but with white people it's 45.7%. So it's not too far off. While juveniles comprise of 50.3% of all juveniles arrested for violent crimes, and black African juveniles accounted for 46.4% of juveniles arrested for violent crimes, white juveniles comprise 54.9% of all juveniles arrested for property crimes. This is white people. This is from the Uniform Crime Report, Crime in the United States, 2019. So this is the source. I don't know how somebody can look at this and say that this is not factual. Where did Charlie Kirk get that 12% commits 55% of the crime stat from? Of juveniles arrested in drug abuse violations, 74.8% were white. So one could argue that a lot of white people are drug heads, or druggies, or crack addicts. White juveniles comprise 56.4% of juveniles arrested for aggravated assault, and 55.4% of juveniles arrested for larceny theft. This is white kids, white young adults, white juveniles. Aggravated assault and larceny theft. 74.8% of white are drug heads or drug abuse. Let me run this again. Where are the white people? Why is YouTube not pushing this out to the algorithm? We critiquing Charlie Kirk today. Look at the stat. Look, bro. Let's go here. Crime data. Key observation. Murder, negligent manslaughter, Black or African American individuals accounted for 51.3% of arrests, slightly higher than their 45 to 7% share among white individuals. Robbery, Black African American individuals accounted for, right, slightly higher than 45.4% share among white individuals. Drug abuse violations, white individuals comprise of 69.4% of arrests, while Black or African American individuals accounted for 26.1%. Now, we look at murder or non-negligent manslaughter and robbery. We're only slightly higher than white people. White people still commit 45% of the crimes when it comes to both murder and robbery in America in the general population. Weapon law violations, white individuals comprise of 68.0% of arrests, while Black or African American individuals accounted for 30%. No, this is the nuance. These statistics reflect arrests, not convictions. Arrest data can be influenced by various factors, including law enforcement practices, reporting mechanisms, systemic issues within criminal justice system. It's essential to interpret these figures within the broader context of social, economic, and institutional factors that contribute to disparities in arrest rates. Now, if I were to say this about for an argument for Black people or Black men, they would still tell Black people that you have to take a personal accountability, and there's no such thing as systemic issues. But if I were to make the argument that white people commit the most crimes in America, then they want to acknowledge the systemic issues in the criminal justice system has an issue. Charlie Kirk's narrative versus data reality. Kirk often frames Black Americans, particularly Black men, as the primary threat to white Americans, emphasizing a supposed crime epidemic directed at white people. He emphasizes certain statistics like disproportionate representation of violent crimes to create fear and moral panic. Data reality. The FBI statistics tell a more nuanced story. Black Americans do appear disproportionately in some arrest stats, murder versus white. But these differences are not nearly as extreme as all crimes caused by Black people, narrative suggests. Most Black Americans are law-abiding. Estimates suggest 70 to 80% or more commit no serious crimes. A small subset of repeat offenders, may be 5 to 10% of the population, account for a large proportion of certain crimes. White Americans are more likely to experience certain crime overall, drug violations, property crimes, assault in some categories. So objective data doesn't support that the narrative of Black Americans as a universal targeted threat to white people. Yet Charlie Kirk built that narrative. Nothing in the FBI crime statistics reflect the story or narrative that Charlie Kirk was saying, or the conservative right was saying. None of it. Matter of fact, let me do this. This is where I get my stuff from. I'm gonna show you where I get my information and the stats from, and when I put together my slides. Let me show you. Remove this, that, add this. This is from U.S. Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Criminal Justice Information Service Division. So this is the FBI. This is the FBI site, and they track the total arrests by race. So when it comes to white people, these are the raw numbers. Total arrests by race: 4,729,290 white people get arrested. This is 3 million more or less than Black or African American that get arrested. All right. Over here, if you look at the percent distribution on this side, Vince Vallis, can you show up here, please? I'm going to click the link in the chat and you can debate it. Because that's a common talking point. There are fewer black people, so the figure should be lower. Right. And like I said before, but hold on. If white people's population is 58-point-something% of the population, yet all the rest are 69.1%, you have more arrests going on in your communities than your population size. Just like black culture is 12% of the country, but 26% of the arrests outweighs the population size, right? Vince or whatever you say your name is. You're welcome to come on the thing. Now, let's see what the FBI crime statistics have to say about your point. You can click the link. It's there in the chat. We could debate it. Because that's a common talking point. So, white are 4 million. This is your total arrests. 4 million population size. This is the percentage. 69.4%. Black Americans, 26.6%. 26.6%. When you look at what you're arrested for, when it comes to manslaughter, black people is slightly higher than white people. When it comes to rape statistics, you're way higher than black people. 69.8% versus the 26.7%. But population size matters, right? This is where you use that per capita argument bullshit. When you want to use population size in your per capita argument to make black people look bad. But when we look at your total population and it exposes where you're fucking up, you want to make the excuse that it's the population size. Well, according to your population size, your rape arrest outweighs your population size. Your murder rate percentage is damn near close to your population size. Aggravated assault is beyond your population size. Burglary is above your population size. Larceny, theft. These are the crime statistics right here. Because of the rounding percentages may not add to 100%. The ethnicity totals are representative of these agencies. So let me tell y'all something. White people, let me tell y'all something. Where you at? I'll put the link in the chat. I don't see you up here. Right there. Right? White people. So because of your population size, means that your crime and statistics, that take away from the fact that you have a rape crime rate going on in your communities. It takes away the fact that you have theft and larceny theft in your communities that outweighs your population size. But apparently your FBI crime statistics, they don't look at it that way. Violent crime, come on, my cat. Go away. Not today. Right? The ethnicity totals are representative of those agencies that provide ethnicity breakdowns. Now, all agencies provide ethnicity data. Therefore, the race and ethnicity totals were not equal. The rape figures in this table are aggregated totals of the data submitted based on both legacy and revised uniform crime reporting definitions. So, like, I guess they revised those things. Now, in 2019, 69.4% of all individuals arrested were white. 26% were Black, African American, and so mind you, the FBI is not looking at it. Okay, well, 69% of all individuals arrested were white, but that's natural to their population size. It's their population size, so this is supposed to be normal. They're looking at this as a problem. Of adults arrested for murder, right? So now, Black Americans are slightly higher than white people. Now, this is where my melanin enriched friend. I don't see you. Let me see if you're in the back, people. I posted it in the chat. So if you click the link, melanin enriched friend. I don't like that because if I called you my pale friend, and it's a picture of a dog, so make sure you show your face. I'm gonna post the link again. He still ain't popped up here. What do you mean it's not a competition? So now that I prove your stats is wrong, it's not a competition? So if you want to ignore the bad things that's happening to white people, Vince, pull up. The link is in the chat. So you want to focus on black people, but ignore what's going on in white communities? Let me use one.
Michael, do you remember the Sandy Hook shooting that was done by a white male? And his victims were.
This is what white people got to say
Michael, most
about
of the time I don't give y'all time of day. TikTok, this is for educational purposes, okay? Now, Michael, y'all always want to turn this around. It's almost like one of those look over there but not over here thing. White people tend to do that a lot, Michael. Now, let's talk about this. You know, the demonstration. Where's the demonstration for black on black crimes? How about where's the demonstration for white on white crimes, Michael? This is a great article for all white people to go read, Michael. Yes, there is white on white crime. Now let's look at some numbers here. The statistics show 84% of white victims were killed.
What am I stepping
Michael?
into, Vince? You ain't clicking the channel.
And Michael, do you remember the Sandy Hook shooting that was done by a white male? And his victims were mostly all white children. Where's your outrage and demonstration?
Vince, where's your outrage for white men massacring white children? Where's your outrage, man? Vince, click the link. My pale cave beast friend. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. I can't. Maybe I'm supposed to like. I don't know why you're not. Maybe you hit the stage, and you're somewhere where I can't invite you to speak for yourself. White men are out there during Sandy Hook taking out white children, but Charlie Kirk was focusing on black crime. Hold on, let me use one of your white women.
Up to 45 times more violent crime than undocumented immigrants. This comment somehow made it onto my page, even though when I responded with a direct link to some hair plugs, that of course violated community guidelines. But I digress. This is obviously a huge talking point for people who are anti-immigrant, right? That illegal immigrants commit this huge amount of crime. They're this massive danger to society. So here are some helpful statistics around that if you find yourself in an argument with someone like this. White men make up about 29% of the US population. However, they are responsible for about 43% of all violent crime committed. Undocumented immigrants make up about 3.2% of the population, and they are responsible for about 1.5% of the violent crime that happens in the United States. 1.5%. That means that white men commit 40 times the amount of violent crime than undocumented immigrants do. So no, I'm actually not afraid of the quote trash that Biden lets into this country. The only person that I'm actually afraid of is you.
Okay.
Times more violent crime.
You hear what your white woman's saying?
Immigrants. This comment somehow made it onto my page, even though when I responded with a direct link to some hair plugs, that of course violated community guidelines. But I digress. This is obviously a huge talking point for people who are anti-immigrant, right? That illegal immigrants commit this huge amount of crime. They're this massive danger to society. So here are some helpful statistics around that if you find yourself in an argument with someone like this. White men make up about 29% of the US population. However, they are responsible for about 43% of all violent crime committed.
Hey, Vince, connect yourself. You in my chat, Cave Beast. Click the link. You can say whatever. I'm gonna say whatever. Cave beast. But you gonna call me a spirit chucker? I could call you a mallet hitter. I could call you Bam Bam, the caveman.
Undocumented immigrants make up about 3.2% of the population, and they are responsible for about 1.5% of the violent crime that happens in the United States. 1.5%. That means that white men commit 40 times the amount of violent crime than undocumented immigrants do.
You're Snow Bunny. It's not me saying it. It's your Snow Bunny saying it. You want to play the clip again?
So no, I'm actually not afraid of the quote trash that Biden lets into this country. The only person to 45 times more violent crime than undocumented immigrants. White men commit up to 45 times more violent crime than undocumented immigrants. This comment somehow made it onto my page, even though when I responded with a direct link to some hair plugs, that of course violated community guidelines. But I digress. This is obviously a huge talking point for people who are anti-immigrant, right? That illegal immigrants commit this huge amount of crime. They're this massive danger to society. So here are some helpful statistics around that if you find yourself in an argument with someone like this. White men make up about 29% of the US population. However, they are responsible for about 43% of all violent crime committed. Undocumented immigrants make up about 3.2% of the population, and they are responsible for about 1.5% of the violent crime that happens in the United States. 1.5%. That means that white men commit 40 times the amount of violent crime than undocumented immigrants do. So no,
Damn.
I'm actually not.
I didn't even know that stat. But I did notice that because I read it to you from the FBI website.
They use bullets.
This is the man who shot Charlie Kirk. This is the man who shot Trump. This is the man who killed Melissa Hortman. This is the man who tried to kill John Hoffman. This is the man who tried to kill Paul Pelosi. This is the man who killed an Obama-appointed judge's son. This is the man who hired hitmen to kill Democrats. This is the man who ran over a left-wing activist and killed her. This is the man responsible for the Austin bombing. This is the man who sent pipe bombs to Obama, Biden, and Hillary Clinton. This is the man who shot Gabby Gifford. This is the man who tried to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. Oh, and this man, and this man, and this man, this man, this man, this man, this man, this man, and this man. This is the man who set Josh Shapiro's house on fire. This is the Oklahoma bomber. This is his accomplice. These are just a few of the men who beat police officers on January 6th. I can think of a few things they have in common, and it's not the way they use their words or their left-wing politics.
Oh, man. Vince. What happened, brother? You still ain't clicked the link. What's going on? Hey, to the future chat, I set up this debate. I put the link in the chat about a bunch of times. Vince, this brother, or Cave Beast, has not clicked the link to debate me. He could have debated me and whoop my ass live on this, but he didn't. Let's go into what Vince has been saying in the chat right quick. Let's go into what he's been saying. Per capita means per unit population. Right-leaning commentators sometimes acknowledge police violence against white people using per capita statistics to show that white crime exists, victims exist. Example, they might say more white people died at the hands of the police overall than black people, which is technically true in raw numbers because white people are the majority of the population. So that's still Vince's argument that he was saying in the chat, right? Now, mind you, when you want to say that white people get abused more than black people when it comes to police violence, then they will say they don't want to. They leave out the factor. They leave out the factor that they're the raw population. So of course, police are going to have more interaction with them because of the bigger population. But when it comes to pointing out their crimes and their bad behavior in society, that's when you want to say, okay, it's raw numbers. They're the general population of America. So of course, their crime is going to be high. But your crime is still high. Vince, hurry up and get your headset. First you was connecting. Now you don't have a headset. So click the link. Click the link. Conservatives often say black people commit a disproportionate amount of violent crime. They use per capita statistics selectively to stigmatize black communities, while ignoring the historical structural causes of high incarcerations or crime rates, segregation, poverty, underfunded schools, or over-policing. Meanwhile, white communities are victims of police violence. Structural context is acknowledged. So when white people are brutalized by police, then they want to talk about the structure and systemic issues. When it's about black people when it comes to disproportionate amount of crime, then they don't want to acknowledge the structural or systemic issues. Example, rural areas suffer from drug epidemics, homelessness, or police militarization. I guess that's why 74% of white people are drug addicts, because you have a drug epidemic in your communities. Just like, now, mind you, shouldn't the police or Donald Trump aggressively police white rural areas because of a drug problem, because of opiate problem, like how they police black communities because we had a crack or dope problem in our communities? Shouldn't they? Observation. The same statistical logic per capita is applied selectively to humanize one group and demonize the other. Impact on black perception. This selective application erodes trust. Black communities see statistics being weaponized against them rather than used to understand systemic issues. It creates a narrative that black people are inherently responsible for police violence and crime, while white victims are portrayed as unlucky or systematically disadvantaged, even when per capita is similar. So when per capita is used against black people, it's to show how violent we are against white people. When per capita statistics are used against white people, it's to show them how they're a victim and to humanize them. I'm still waiting for you to click the link. I'll post the link up in here again. You can't connect. You don't have a headset. What's up, man? People in the back. Let's go. Let's get it. Objective takeaway. Data isn't neutral. It can be used manipulatively, like Charlie Kirk did. Objectivity requires using per capita statistics consistently across all racial groups, acknowledging structural and historical factors, poverty, policing patterns, housing, and education, separating individual responsibility from systemic influence, right? Get that out of the way. When these principles aren't followed, statistics are usually ideological rather than analytical. When conservative media or pundits reference crime statistics to black communities, they typically rely on FBI uniform crime reporting, which is where I got the statistic to show you that white people commit more crimes than black people. Here's what crime include: arrest, any police arrest, regardless of outcome. Example, arrest for shoplifting, drug possession, or disorderly conduct. Important, arrest does not equal convictions. Arrest can reflect policing priorities or bias, not just criminal activity. So that means that the 26% of the 12% may not, those 26% don't account for the convictions. Those are just arrests. That don't mean that the 26% actually did the crime. They weren't convicted of it. Just like we can make the argument that 69.4% of white people who are committing the crimes, they were arrested for it, but they weren't convicted of what they did. But they'll use that to excuse white people, but Charlie Kirk did not make that nuance about black people. Yet I pulled the same data from where he got the data from. Convictions. When someone is prosecuted or found guilty in court, conviction rates are influenced by legal representation quality, plea deals, and systematic bias. All right. So now, if you're already biased against black people, right, and you're not getting the proper lawyers or whatever, what's to call you, you're like fucked in court. Especially if you get a public defender. And I was a juror, and I've watched how the public defender defends certain people, and they are trash. Anyway, Reported offenses includes crimes reported to police such as robbery, assault, burglary, or homicide. Note, some crimes go underreported, like white-collar crimes. So reported crime is not the same as actual crime committed. Reported crime is not the same as actual crime committed. Let me see if this boy hit the chat. Hit the link. It's hard without a headset. So what are you on, like an old Windows box PC? You don't have a speaker or a laptop? You want to debate, so you don't have headphones? Excuses. Homicide, violent crime, often highlighted because these crimes are considered severe. Homicide statistics are typically divided by race of the offender and the victim, which is where per capita debates often arise. Misuse of 12% of the population, something that Charlie Kirk said. Conservatives often say 12% of the population commits 30 to 50% of the violent crime, leaving out context. Many of these statistics come from arrest data, not actual conviction data. Many of these statistics that are coming from the 30 to 50% are arrest data, not actual convictions. Many high crime neighborhoods are over police, producing inflating arrest statistics for black residents. Now, if you remember Stop and Frisk and Jump Out Boys Brooklyn, there were a lot of kids that were average everyday civilians that got arrested, myself included. But I'm not I was never a gangbanger. I was never a street nigga. Now, what happened with me and a lot of other kids, or a lot of my friends, and this is anecdotal, if you went to court and you got arrested and it was your first time offense, if you wait 6 months and you don't do anything, you don't commit another like crime or whatever, they'll expunge that from your record. But I don't know if they could have still count them arresting me. That arrest itself alone, not that they expunged the charge from my what you call record, they still might account the fact that they arrested me for something towards the statistics of violent crime. Now, when you talk about high crime neighborhoods or over police, like so now, if it's a high crime neighborhood, then yeah, you would understand the policing. Now, when it comes to black community, you have East New York, Brooklyn. Out here in Queens, you have Queensbridge. Then you have like Linden Boulevard going into Jamaica Avenue. But Cambridge Heights, Queens is not a high crime area. But if you go into Queensbridge, or if you go into, let's say, South Jamaica, Queens, that's a high crime area. But Cambridge Heights, a lot of black people live in Cambridge Heights, Queens. A lot of black people live in Long Island. A lot of black people live in other parts of Brooklyn besides East New York, Brooklyn. Then we got Brighton Beach, you got Kings Highway, you got Canarsie. You understand? So you got Rosedale. Come on. So now let me show this. What? I don't understand what I'm reading poorly. Concentration of crime among individuals. Research consistently shows that crime is heavily concentrated among small subset of individuals, often referred to as chronic or repeat offenders, typically findings in urban studies. Chronic offenders, 5 to 10% approximately of all. So mind you, right? So chronic offenders, 5 to 10%, 50 to 70% of violent crime. Non-chronic of chronic, minor offenders, 10 to 15%, 20 to 30% of the violent crime. Law-abiding majority, 75 to 85%, 0 to 10%. So why did not Charlie Kirk bring out this and say that the majority of black people in black culture, 75 to 85% of the population of black people, this is the large bulk of the law-abiding majority, is only committing 0 to 10%. Why he did not break it down like this? Why he did not say Chronic offenders are 5 to 10% of the of black population that are committing 50 to 70% of the violent crimes committed. Interpretation. A very small fraction of residents in high poverty neighborhoods commit most violent crimes. The majority of the residents are law abiding. Why didn't Charlie Kirk say that? Well, he didn't bring that out. Okay, bitch nigga. If you're not gonna find a fucking mic to bring your ass into the thing so we could debate, shut up. If you're not gonna, if you can't find a mic, and I have a computer, and I can speak to this, then you're too broke to debate me. This is how white people windmill in the chat, right? Because I'm bringing up the facts that I drew from their stuff. I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up. You go here. This is from the Uniform. This is 2019. This is from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the same place that Charlie Kirk got his stats from. Why he didn't see any of this? You didn't see any of this, right? Let's go back to what we were talking about. You don't got a mic, and you say you went through all that racism, sweetie. So I don't know if you're black or white. Crime, these narratives, is a catch-all term that may include arrests, reported offensive, convictions, and violent crimes. The statistic is used rhetorically to imply inherent criminality in black people without considering structural, economic, and historical factors that actually produce disparities, right? When you hear phrases like 12% of the population commits 30% of the crime, it's almost always referring to arrest and violent crime data, sometimes conviction, but never the full picture of societal structural causes. It's simplistic, misleading, and often weaponized against black communities, right? The statement often heard is black Americans are 12% of the U.S. population, but commit 30 to 50% of the violent crime. Like, seriously? That mathematically doesn't sound incorrect to you? 12% of the population is committing 30 to 50% of the violent crime. Nobody sees the incorrectness with that math. Misleading part, it makes it sound like all black people are disproportionately criminal, which is not true, which is what Charlie Kirk was saying, right? Crime is heavily concentrated in specific neighborhoods, often urban areas with high poverty and unemployment and social instability. Research shows a small percentage of individuals commit a disproportionate amount of crimes. For example, studies of violent crime in major U.S. cities often find that 5 to 10% of offenders account for 50 to 70% of violent crimes. Those offenders are usually repeat offenders, not the general population. Implications. 12% of the population commits X amount of crimes. Statistic is not describing the average black person, but a small concentrated subset. Why did Charlie Kirk not explain that? Why did Charlie Kirk not talk about the crime going on? White America has a drug problem. 70% of white Americans have an opiate or drug addiction. That's a serious problem, dead ass. When you go, they were showing videos on YouTube. I think this is Philadelphia, of people on, I think, fentanyl and opioids. And you see white people strung out. It's a sad thing to see, dead ass. White people are strung out and they're like walking dead. So apparently white America has a drug addiction problem. White America also has a rape problem by 60-something%. Why did not Charlie Kirk point those things out about the white community? Why focused on black people? And don't tell me black people don't hold each other accountable. The Nation of Islam, from time immemorial, always held black culture accountable. The Hebrew Israelites stay preaching to black people. The NOI used to go to community telling niggas to clean up their act. Bitch nigga, I'm not a leftist. I'm not a leftist. Me correcting Charlie Kirk on something he said wrong is going to bring about a civil war. I'm not a leftist. I voted for Donald Trump, by the way. But I'm not afraid to hold my party or whoever I voted for accountable for something they're doing wrong. Right? Conservatives, you always tell black people on the left to hold their party accountable, right? Why can't you guys hold your own party accountable for the bullshit that your hero, Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Charlie Kirk, said? I'm not afraid. If Donald Trump does something wrong, I'm going to say something about it because I voted for Donald Trump. I still believe in Donald Trump, that he could take this country to glory. I believe in Donald Trump. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and let the left, nigger liberals, or white liberals, or cracker liberals on the left lie and use black people to push whatever agenda. I'm also not going to let nigger conservatives or cave beast conservatives use black people to push a narrative. I'm not going to allow either side of you to do that. If y'all say something stupid and goofy, I'm going to correct it. A narrative by Charlie Kirk was built about black men that was not true. And to this bitch nigga here, I'm going to post the link in the chat again. Y'all can step your bitch ass right up. A narrative was painted about black men. And to the black nigga conservatives in the manosphere, if black women were to come out with stats like what Charlie Kirk was saying, y'all would fry that black woman alive. Y'all would cuss her left, right, and center. When Ebony K. Williams came out and was talking about niggas is deadbeats, niggas is broke, niggas is uneducated, what did y'all do? Y'all fried Ebony K. Williams. Why is it now that Charlie Kirk is saying something incorrect, manipulating the stats to make black men look bad? You're giving y'all white Jesus, Lord and Savior Christ, Charlie Kirk, a pass. But if black women did the same thing Charlie Kirk was doing, y'all would have a fit about that black bitch. We ain't talking about motherfucking Africa, nigga. And if you want to talk about I called you a nigga. I should have called you a cave monkey, a cave beast. Sir, the Vikings were very fucking brutal. The Europeans, remember Braveheart? So let's not talk about degenerate. Remember, the Europeans used to take a hot metal rod and shove it up another European's ass. So don't talk to me about what Africa's going through. Okay? And last time I checked, there are a lot of white people in South Africa right now. So one can argue that the degeneracy didn't, or black violence in Africa didn't start until the Arab or the white man went over there. It seems like white men are a plague on everywhere they go. And remember, sir, you talking about black violence in Africa? It wasn't an African that assassinated Charlie Kirk. You want me to let you know who assassinated Charlie Kirk? Hold on, I got you. I'll show you who assassinated Charlie Kirk. This is who assassinated Charlie Kirk.
We use words, they use bullets.
This is the man who shot Charlie Kirk. This is the man who shot Trump. This is the man who killed Melissa Hortman. This is the man who tried to kill John Hoffman. This is the man who tried to kill Paul Pelosi. This is the man who killed an Obama-appointed judge's son. This is the man who hired hitmen to kill Democrats. This is the man who ran over a left-wing activist and killed her. This is the man responsible for the Austin bombing. This is the man who sent pipe bombs to Obama, Biden, and Hillary Clinton. This is the man who shot Gabby Gifford. This is the man who tried to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. Oh, and this man, and this man, and this man, this man, this man, this man, this man, this man, and this man. This is the man who set Josh Shapiro's house on fire. This is the Oklahoma bomber. This is his accomplice. These are just a few of the men who beat police officers on January 6th. I can think of a few things they have in common, and it's not the way they use their words or their left-wing politics.
Why don't want crime? Why violence? Let me let one of your Beckys, your great snow buddy, white woman, tell you about yourself.
Afraid of the quote trash that Biden lets into this country. The only person that I'm actually afraid of is you.
Hold on. No, God,
White men
don't
commit
know.
up to 45 times more violent crime than undocumented immigrants. White men commit up to 45 times more violent crime than undocumented immigrants. This comment somehow made it onto my page, even though when I responded with a direct link to some hair plugs, that of course violated community guidelines. But I digress. This is obviously a huge talking point for people who are anti-immigrant, right? That illegal immigrants commit this huge amount of crime. They're this massive danger to society. So here are some helpful statistics around that if you find yourself in an argument with someone like this. White men make up about 29% of the US population. However, they are responsible for about 43% of all violent crime committed. Undocumented.
White men, you're 29% of the population, yet you commit 45% of all violent crimes. Why is there not National Guards? And why are your communities not being policed for the violence going on and the degeneracy going on in your communities? Oh, but the excuse is because you're 60% of the population and it's natural to your population size. But there's still 45% violent crimes going on in your community to the I think it was 58.4% of your community. You don't think that's a problem? Let it continue.
Immigrants make up about 3.2% of the population, and they are responsible for about 1.5% of the violent crime that happens in the United States. 1.5%. That means that white men commit 40 times the amount of violent crime than undocumented immigrants do. So no, I'm actually...
Yo, Becky said it, not me. You want to hear Grandma Karen tell you about yourself?
For these kind of things. The Columbine mass shooting done by 2 white males and his victims were all white, but one. Michael, where was your outrage and demonstration about this, Michael? This is for
I'm not
educational
racist.
purposes,
It's
okay?
your white women.
Now,
Your
Michael,
white women
you
of
always
the
want to turn
tribe.
this around. It's
Tell
almost
them
like
about
one of those
yourself.
look over there but not over here thing. White people tend to do that a lot, Michael. Now, let's talk about this. You know, the demonstration. Where's the demonstration for?
Yes. White people like bring back that son. Yes. White people like that. They tend to do that a lot. They tend to want to focus on black crime, but not focus on the crime. Oh, they left. What a bunch of white bitch. What a bunch of white cave beasts.
Black on black crimes.
Cave beast. Such a cave beast that's throwing around rocks. Us black men, we throw spears, you throw rocks. You chuck rocks and stones.
How about where's the demonstration for white on white crimes, Michael? This is a great article for all white people to go read, Michael. Yes, there is white on white crime. Now let's look at some numbers here. The statistics show 84% of white victims were killed by who, Michael? Whites.
But who bring back that son? But I'm the crazy racist. Charlie Kirk talked about black people. Why he did not talk about the crime going on within his own community?
And Michael, do you remember the Sandy Hook shooting that was done by a white male?
Mm-hmm.
And his victims were mostly all white children.
Mm-hmm.
Where's your outrage and demonstrations for these kind of things?
Yeah.
The Columbine mass shooting done by 2 white males and his victims were all white, but one. Michael, where was your outrage and demonstration about this, Michael?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Michael, I know a lot about these mass shootings and white people unaliving white people. I'm born and raised Texan. My family came here generations and generations ago. And here in Texas, we lead the charge in the nation in mass shootings done by white males. Texas church shooting, who was the victims of the Sutherland Spring massacres. And these are the victims, Michael, right here. And again, this was done by a white male. Would you look at the victims there? Majority are.
There was a white baby there, a white child. This white man massacred a white woman. Damn, Brian, bring back that son. I'm a racist. Oh my God, I'm a crazy racist.
White. Where's your outrage on this one? And demonstrations. I didn't see any. And old George here. This happened in Killeen, Texas.
Man, he looked like a killer. Man, police need to profile some white men. They need to do that.
You know, at a Luby's cafeteria, where George here decided that he would walk in there, ram his truck through the front of the building, you know, and unalive 23 people.
Damn.
Hey, and guess what? They were white victims. White shooter, once again. More white on white crimes. And I didn't see all the white people out there demonstrating either. And in each one of these cases, Michael, you know what the one common factor is? White supremacist ideologies. And if you also want to look at January 6th insurrection, that was a white on white crime. You know, y'all were beating down white female officers there, but yet you wanted to make a big thing out of the Alabama river brawl, you know, because a white woman was hit over the head with a chair. Y'all do that all the time. Shit, Michael. So we have a problem in our own community, Michael. White on white crimes.
Man. So rather than Charlie Kirk address the drug problem going on in white culture, hold on. Let me show you the statistic again. Let me show you this again. Because when I see white people in, I forgot what YouTube video it was. I think it was either in Philadelphia or California, where you have white people that were strong, I think, on fentanyl or opioids. It was sad to see. Dead ass. Look at this. So Charlie Kirk was focused on black crime. What happened to the juveniles arrested for drug abuse violations? 74.8% were white. 56.4% of juveniles arrested for aggravated assault. 54.4% of juveniles arrested for larceny theft. So there's assault and theft going on in white communities. You have a serious drug abuse problem. But black men are the biggest threat to white people. Not the drugs, not you raping each other, not you killing each other, none of that. But black men are the biggest threat. But you got these people in my chat telling me I'm a racist for pointing out the crime going on in your community that Charlie Kirk obviously didn't give a fuck about. All he cared about was talking bad about, was painting a narrative on black men. That's what he cared about. Neighborhood concentration. Crime among black Americans is highly I know what this word means. I can't say it. High crime neighborhoods often face underfunded schools, unemployment, lack of access to healthcare, over policing, and historical housing discrimination, redlining, right? Conversely, the majority of black Americans do not live in high crime neighborhoods and do not engage in violent crime. So crime is not evenly distributed across black population. It is localized among specific individuals and areas, right? Now, for the Negro conservatives, I am not saying that you shouldn't hold black culture accountable for our crimes against each other, because we should, right? It sucks that the gangbanger, the thug, the rapper, and whatever degenerate of black men is representing the majority of black men. That's not good. So yes, I agree, black culture, Chicago, New York, Philly, wherever black people are in America, we have to get our act together. My problem was that Charlie Kirk, I'm not saying Charlie Kirk is a racist. I'm not saying he deserved to die. He did not deserve to die. He should be alive so somebody like me can debate him properly. He has the right as an American to freedom of speech, like I have a right as an American to freedom of speech, right? But at the same time, myself and him have to be held accountable as men for the things we put out there and say. And what he said was wrong. That doesn't take away accountability from black culture. What it takes away is people lying and making false narratives about black men or black culture. And again, to the black manosphere, if black women were saying the same stats that Charlie Kirk was saying, yeah, I would call her all kind of liars and crucify her and burn her at the cybernetic cross or cyber cross or internet cross or ether cross, however you call this internet shit. And you would debunk her stats with facts and all kind of statistics. But now that Charlie Kirk is saying it, you give him a pass. High percentage of crime comes from low percentage of individuals. Crime is geographically and socioeconomically concentrated, not evenly spread across the population. Using a 12% statistic without context misrepresents realities and unfairly stigmatizes the broader black population. Structural factors, poverty, segregation, over-policing, limited economic opportunity drive much of this concentration. Right? So this is the age and gender factor. So now this is for all people. Crime is concentrated among young males, typically ages 15 to 34, which is consistent across all racial groups. For violent crime, 80 to 90% of offenders are male. A small percentage of males, around 55 to 10% of that age cohort, in high crime neighborhoods. Limited economic opportunities drive much of this concentration, right? Now, why don't want crime? This is from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This is where I'm getting all my stuff from. I'm not getting it from the pie in the sky. I'm not pulling it from the air. I'm getting it from the website that everybody apparently is getting their stats from. Everybody, when they want to talk about bad about black people, they get their stats from this place. So how did I see all of this? But I'm seeing all of this. Interracial homicides. Approximately 81% of white homicide victims are killed by white offenders. This statistic underscores that similar to black communities, white individuals are predominantly victimized by perps of the same race. Arrest data. In 2019, white individuals accounted for 69.4% of all arrests in the United States. This includes arrests for various offenses not limited to violent crimes. Now, mind you, 91% of the black homicide victims are killed by black offenders. So the victims in black culture who are victimized by their own are higher than white people who are victimized by their own. Which black people, this is not good. This stat is not good, black people. Black men, this is not good. I'm going to say it again, black people, this shouldn't be at 91%. This shouldn't even be at all the pro-black shit that us as black people talk about. This should not be this. So, I'm going to say it again. Black people, I'm going to put my face on the screen. All the pro-black shit that we speak, there should not be a 91% victim percentage amongst black people committed against other black people if we claim to be morally superior than white people. My argument is that Charlie Kirk should have made the same argument I'm making about black people for white people, but he didn't. Interracial crime patterns. Both white and black communities exhibit high rates of interracial crime, with individuals more likely to be victimized by perps of the same race. This pattern is influenced by factors such as residential segregation and social networks. Right? So I'm not. I did 3 videos about this. Right? So white individuals consist of 57.8% of the U.S. population. Right? But you account for 69.4% of all arrests. These figures suggest that in absolute terms, white individuals are arrested, but more frequently due to their larger population size, right? Same thing can say for black people. We are arrested more frequently due to our population size, just like white people are. But why is the logic not 58% commit for 69% of the crimes? That's a bigger problem than the 13% doing it, because you're the dominant group in society. You're the natural dominant group, committing 69% of the crimes on all people or in the general population. But that wouldn't be true, right? Because up here, I'd be lying if I said this right here, that this is being done against the general population, because you're doing that amongst each other. Just like black people are doing this amongst each other. So this is how the math looks, right? Right arrest rate, 69.4% arrests divided by 57.8% population equals 1.22% per person. These calculations indicate that black individuals are arrested at a higher rate per capita than white individuals, higher rate. And like I said, that's because we're more concentrated and we're more heavily policed, right? The distribution of population across urban and rural areas significantly impact crime statistics. Black Americans are more likely to reside in urban centers, which typically have a higher crime rate due to factors such as poverty, unemployment, and social instability. Conversely, white Americans are more dispersed across suburban, urban, and rural areas, which generally experience lower crime rates. The geographic concentration means that even if black individuals commit crimes at a higher rate per capita, the overall crime rate in predominantly white areas may be lower due to their distribution across less densely populated areas, regions. In other words, if white people were more concentrated amongst each other, maybe you might see a higher crime rate in their communities too. All right. I'm not going to go through this again. One could argue, so look at this. White population, 58% of the U.S. commits 69.4% of the arrests, higher than their population share. Same thing for black population, right? Both groups have arrest rates higher than their population share, but political narratives focus almost exclusively on black population, ignoring the fact that white arrests are higher in raw numbers. One can argue white people are more dangerous because they make up the majority of the arrests in raw numbers. You can even suggest policies targeting white population specifically, mimicking how some narratives focus on black population. The deviant logic is identical to the way 12% of the population commits 30% of the crime. It's framed to stigmatize black communities. But I'm a racist, as this fool said, because I'm presenting you the facts. Statistics are not inherently objective tools for judgment. They can be used to stigmatize, manipulate, or justify policies against whichever population you want to target. This is why context, distribution, structural factors, and per capita calculations are critical, and my cat's fucking with me again, critical when interpreting crime statistics. Takeaway. If someone applied the same methods used against black communities to white communities, they can make a superficial logical argument that white people are a bigger problem in crime. The only difference is the narratives are selectively applied, showing ideological, not purely statistical use of data. You know, I'm waiting for a white person to come debate me. Let me see if anybody's in the back. And I've copied the link. I'm going to post it back in the chat again. Anybody can hit the link and come up. All right. I'm not making an excuse for black people. I'm acknowledging higher per capita arrests and crime rate in certain areas. the need for internal community reform, including respect for authority, self-policing, and reducing inter-crime violence, right? Like I said, that 91% of us victimizing each other, that is a problem. I'm not excusing that, right? Those are real issues. But at the same time, there's evidence of systemic and individual misconduct in policing. Stopping frisk practices disproportionately target Black communities. Deviant or unlawful officers antagonizing people, violate rights, and often face little accountability. This contributes to mistrust between Black communities and law enforcement, which in turn affects cooperation, safety, and community cohesion. Right? Look at the people in the back now. I don't see anybody on the stage. You know what I'm saying? I've been up here for an hour. If there was a great white hope to come challenge a Negro, what happened? Conservative commentators like Charlie Kirk often emphasize Black crime and intra-community problems, placing burden entirely on the community. Downplay or ignore policing misconduct that disproportionately affects Black people. Use statistics in ways that stigmatize the community without contextualizing systemic factors. A balanced critique could be acknowledge Black community accountability and internal reforms, acknowledging police misconduct, systemic issues affecting Black communities, address interconnected nature of crime, law enforcement, and social structure in America. All right. So that's that. Let's go here. This is important. 59.1% of violent crime arrests, violent crime equal murder, negligent manslaughter, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, were of white individuals. Also in the data, about 33% of those arrests were Black or African American. For rape arrests of adults, 2019, about 69.6% of arrests were white persons, about 26.8% were Black or African American. So yes, the 59.1% figure is realistic, but specifically about arrests, not convictions or proven crime rates. It's not a statement about who actually committed all violent crimes, just who was arrested for them. Read that again. The 59.1% figure is a real statistic, but it's specifically about arrests, not convictions or proven crime rates. So that same logic could be applied to Black people in the 33% of the arrests, right? This is 33% arrests. The same logic could be applied to Black people in the same group, right? They were arrested on these charges, right? And I could be a liar or a dickhead or a deviant and then take out the nuance and say that, man, white people account for murder, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault and violent crimes. Why did not police? But it would be intellectually dishonest of me because these white individuals were arrested on these charges, right? Arrest doesn't equal they were convicted, right? Right? So yeah, I can pause and read this. Arrests don't equal prosecution or conviction. Many arrested individuals are never convicted, charges dropped, plea deals, insufficient evidence. Different jurisdictions, different practices. All right? Record and reporting issues. Now, all jurisdictions report race, conviction outcomes in ways that are aggregated and publicly available. Right? Plea bargaining, dismissals, partial releases, hung juries. Many cases don't follow the full plan. From arrest, trial, convictions for data is more sparse. So you can't really prove that 26%. Nor can you prove the 50%. Because there's a lot of gap in the data. There's things that are not accounted for. Adult rape arrests. This is from the same place I showed you earlier, right? The 2019 FBI, UCR. But we only want to focus on Black people and adult rape arrests. But look at that big number. So in raw numbers, more whites were arrested for rape than blacks. But conservatives really frame it that way. Why not? When it comes to white people, even though the majority of violent crime arrests are of white people, because they're the majority of the population, conservatives never flip the same logic back. They don't say since whites are 58% of the population, 7% of the rape arrests, white America must have a rape problem. Instead, they use raw numbers. More whites are arrested, but that's just because there are more whites to minimize. Which is what this nigga said. This white boy said up here. This is what he said. This is what he told. This is what he put. The first thing he put in the chat was this. This is what he put in the chat. And I knew I was going to beat him in debate when he said that because I had this answer ready. When it comes to white people, so now, because you're the natural bigger population means that you shouldn't address the rape problem going on in your communities. It shouldn't. You should. So white women, because white women, you're the typical the recipient or victim of white men who are raping you. So because you're the natural population size, means that you shouldn't address that problem. So they switch methods depending on the racial group. Against black people, per capita framing disproportionately equals pathology. For white people, raw numbers framing majority equals natural, no pathology. So because it's natural, even though you commit higher crimes, that's just a natural course. So we shouldn't address Trump. We shouldn't pathologize that. We shouldn't pathologize that. That's cherry picking. It's not an honest critique, it's rhetorical manipulation. If you apply Kirk's same logic fairly, you could evenly but consistently say, since 69.6% of rape arrests are of white people, and whites are only 58% of the population, clearly white America has a rape epidemic. Maybe police should be more aggressive in white communities. Of course, that will be misleading and unfair because arrest does not equal conviction. And structural context factors matter for everyone. But it exposes how the conservative talking point against black people is also misleading and unfair. Right? And to end. So, if arrest data alone is enough to condemn black people, then arrest data alone should be enough to condemn white people. But since the argument sounds absurd when flipped, it proves conservative framing is flawed from the start. Right? Let's go over here. Crime data. Mechanism and narrative application. Selective statistics highlighting only violent crime committed by black Americans and ignoring the broader context. Repeat offenders, socioeconomic factors, systemic policing biases. Fair framing. Suggests that, so now, black people, just because you have low socioeconomic factors don't mean that you should be gangbanging. But then again, these are from repeat offenders. This is not from the majority of the population. Fair framing, suggesting that white people, especially children and women, are in danger. Without contextualizing that, most crime is interracial. People are more likely victimized by someone of their own race. More panic. But portraying black Americans as essential, or as an eccentric threat, it simplifies complex social issues into an easily digestible and emotional charge message, which Charlie Kirk was doing. This is the parallel to what happened to a certain group of people in Germany by a small mustache guy. Similar to what a small mustache guy did with a certain propaganda used against a certain group of people. Though there are key differences in scale and intent, common mechanism. selectively highlight data, exaggerate the perceived danger of the minority group, demonize the group, portray them as inherently criminal, immoral, or dangerous, create fear, make the majority population feel under threat, justify action, suggest that extreme measures, social exclusion, legal restrictions, or worse, are necessary to protect the majority. Difference: Charlie Kirk was not advocating genocide. The propaganda technique, magnifying a small subset of population to portray, and my cat getting on my nerve. Oh my goodness. So I've been on here for an hour. Nobody. The white men who said they were going to challenge me, I have yet to see them in the back chat. All right. It's weird. Difference: while Kirk is not advocating genocide, the propaganda technique, magnifying a small subset of the population to portray the entire group as dangerous, is the same cognitive pattern used historically to justify oppression. The argument that Charlie Kirk is making is what white racists used to use in Jim Crow South to justify why you shouldn't free blacks and keep them in slavery. How did you Negro black male conservatives not pick that up? You can pick up when white women are repeating Jim Crow rhetoric, but you couldn't pick up when Charlie Kirk was using the same mechanism or propaganda technique that a lot of Southern Democrats were using. How you didn't pick that up? The same way Southern Democrats were debating, arguing why black people should stay in slavery. The same propaganda, the same mechanism, Charlie Kirk was using something very similar. Why you didn't pick that up? Key takeaways. Most black Americans are law-abiding citizens. A small subset account for a disproportionate number of certain crimes. Crime is overwhelmingly interracial, so the narrative that black men are a main threat to white Americans is misleading. Propaganda works by fear amplification, selective data, plus emotional framing equal public perception that diverges from reality. Understanding this helps contextualize modern political rhetoric and spot when numbers are being weaponized to stigmatize an entire group. Fact check: this statistic is misleading. While it's true that black Americans are disproportionately represented in certain crime statistics, this overrepresentation is influenced by various factors. So hold on, let me show y'all something. No reason why you can't use that 55% thing. It's because of this. Let me show you. Let me show you. That's why you can't use it. No, it's not in this. Fix. So let me remove something. Remove that from the studio. Add this. Look at this. Black Americans are disproportionately affected by wrongful convictions, particularly in cases of murder and sexual assault. Despite comprising approximately 13.6% of the U.S. population, Black individuals account for over 50% of exonerations in serious criminal cases, highlighting significant racial disparities in criminal justice system, right? And, I put together a whole thing, whole PowerPoint presentation. So look at this. White people were exonerated for a lot of shit too. I think black is like 7% higher than white people that were exonerated. But if white people saw this, they would make the same argument to justify that they're not inherently violent. But they won't make the same logic with black people. Let's go back here. I've been up here for an hour now, and I've challenged all white people. 2 white people came into the chat. I put the link in the description. None of them clicked it. Studies have shown that a small percentage of individuals are responsible for a disproportionate number of crimes. However, it's important to know that these studies are not specific to any particular racial or ethnic group, and the factors that influence repeat offenders are complex and multifaceted. So the 50% or the 5 to 10% of black men, it's not specific to any particular racial or ethnic group. So it's not targeting it's not just a small subset of repeat offenders targeting black community or white people. It's a general thing. So now, this debunks the idea that, for the argument on the left that, black people harassed by black police officers, maybe not now, maybe in the early 2000s or 90s and 80s or the 2010s. Like I said, I was arrested for some shit. We were on the train station, some niggas was running by, bumped into me, the police arrested me instead of going to getting their fat ass up and going chasing them. So that was that. Charlie Kirk's narrative that black men are a primary threat to white Americans. This narrative has been criticized for being misleading and racially inflammatory. The FBI 2019 UCR data indicates that white individuals are arrested more often for violent crimes than individuals of any other race. It accounted for 59% of those arrests. Additionally, most violent crimes are interracial, meaning individuals are more likely victimized by someone of their own race. Therefore, the claim that black men are the primary threat to white Americans is not supported by the data. So Charlie Kirk, where did he get his data from? According to the FBI, 2019 UCR data, it doesn't say that or talk about that. So where did he get his information from? Again, I'm gonna run through. Now I'm actually gonna go to the actual site itself. Where is it? If you see my cat, the PC on the screen, you fucking with me. Let's go here. Let me share this. So remove this. This is where everybody gets their crime statistic and data from. So everybody gets it from here. So I'm gonna show you how to get to it. 2019 crime in the United States. You go home, crime in the US. Click 29. So I'm gonna show you from the scratch, right? Home. So this is for y'all. Y'all want to go look this information up for yourself, right? Show you how to get to it. You go here. More. Damn. Forgot how I got to that shit. So go from here. Crime in the US. 2019, so it gives you the years and times. 2019, crime in the US, 2019. You go to, see they even show violent crime. And you go to arrest tables. You then go all the way down to table 43. Hold on, let me see something. Look at this. Important to know about the rape data. In 2013, the USCR initiated the collection of rape data under revised definition and removed the term forcible from the offense name. The USCR program now defines rape as follows. Penetration, no matter how slight, of the vagina or anus with any body part or object. Or penetration. Oh, damn. So now they're revising that. Okay. So see, they give the whole breakdown here. So then you go to here, you go to table 43, and it'll bring you right here. Total arrests. Total arrests by race, 4,729,290 versus Black Americans who are 1,800,015,144. Right? When it comes to murder or negligent manslaughter, Black men are slightly higher than white men in percentage. When it comes to robbery, Black men are slightly higher than them in that. But look in their rape category. Look in the aggravated assault category. Look at the burglary. Look at the larceny theft. Look at the motor vehicle theft. Look at the arson. Look at the violent crime, 59.1%. Look at property crime. Look at other assaults. Look at forgery and counterfeiting. Look at fraud, embezzlement, stolen property, buying, receiving, possessing, vandalism, weapons carrying. But oh, I forgot, it's the population size. You're naturally the bigger group. So I'm saying, so these crimes should be naturally occurring. Well, if the idea is to bring down the crime in Black culture because it's higher than its population share or size, shouldn't that logic be accounted for white people? Sex offenses except rape and prostitution, 74%. Drug abuse violations, 71. Gambling, 57. Offenses against the family and children, 65. Driving under the influence, 81. Liquor laws, drunkenness, disorderly conduct, vagrancy, all other offenses except traffic. And they even give you the numbers that match the percentage. Suspicion, curfew, loitering law, right? Arrest under 18. This is the juvenile, right? Look at this. Over 18. White people dominate in almost every category except murder and robbery. These two categories. So Black men rob and murder at a higher rate, slightly higher rate than white men. But all other categories, they dominate in that. This is the same space or same spot that the conservatives and Charlie Kirk was getting their stats from, or claim they got their stats from. Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI.gov, contact center. They have a social media. You can email them. You understand? You can download the tables, data declaration, overview. Of all adults arrested in 2019, 69.9% were white. Let me validate something somebody said. Give me a second. Give me a moment. My bad. My mic was muted the whole time I was talking. But hopefully y'all saw the statistics, right? If you go over here, everything is updated. You scroll down here. Look at that number. Rape offenses. Anyway, this is the 4th video I made on this topic with Charlie Kirk. This time I went live, wanting people to come debate me. Whether it was anybody on the right could have came and debated me, whether it would be black or white. I put the link in the chat about several times. Nobody jumped up there. One person struggling to find his mic or his headset. Another person came in here and called me racist. I never talked about Africa. I'm talking about America. No, the entire planet is aware of white people's violence. Black people's violence in Africa stayed in Africa. White people's violence spread it across the globe. So, anyway. I guess white people don't like stats either, especially when it identifies them as a problem. Anyway, this is Kiss Shorty Gamer Nation. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I'm out.